Today I'm here with Darci Spireti, who is Sparks to Sparkles on Instagram. And thank you, first of all, for joining us here today, Darci. It's so nice that you've taken time out of your day. I really want to know about your career change because I think that's really inspiring, and just to see someone take their first career and come into construction. So what was your first career like, and what made you want to change careers?
So I was in a marketing company. So I would work in the studios. It was like I would compare it to project management. So I was kind of like a traffic manager. So any of the design jobs that would come into the studio, I would be the point person from the accounts team. And then I would distribute the work to the designers that we had in studio. Um, I was always working in Toronto and living in Toronto, and it just got to a point where I think it was too expensive. I'm a single mom, so I wanted to start to think about a career that I could support myself and my son. So I had heard about a grant that the Ontario government has called the Second Career Grant, and I never thought that I would actually have it had like very specific requirements to be able to qualify for this grant. So I had heard about it before and I was like, oh, it'll never happen. So skip to me deciding to leave Toronto and try and find work outside and not being able to find anything and ending up back downtown. There was an animation company that I was working for, and they ended up going into receivership. So it's kind of like a bankruptcy. There was like 500 employees that were laid off. So I had to take a contract position, which was exactly the the parameters for this grant. So I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take some time to look into what I want to do. Because in high school, I never have really had time to think about what I wanted to do. I always kind of fell into my career and just kind of grew that way. And it was nice to actually have time to sit down and research. There were so many jobs that I was looking into as well. And it was like, I'd looked at a stenographer. Like, I think I was thinking about doing like working at an old age home. And then I was talking with my mom, and her friend's son is an electrician, and she was just telling me how much money he makes. And like, I was just like, I should just be an electrician. And then that kind of sparked the like, why not? Why can't I look into construction? I always loved to work with my hands. So I started looking up stuff online, researching, and just seeing so many women in trades and just getting so inspired that way. So I decided to go for it, and I was able to qualify for the grant. And they basically paid for my pre-apprentice, and they paid for my living and childcare. Like, it was an amazing opportunity for sure. And um, I had talked with other electricians and just was like, do you think I should do the pre-apprentice? And they were like, if it's being paid for 100%, like, do it, but you don't really necessarily need it because you're going to be doing on the job training anyways, and you're going to be doing in school and on the job. But I was in this pre-apprentice for electrical. It was actually I was looking at also at carpentry, but I think I had seen so many women in electrical, and I was like, I'm really into this. So here I am in the union.
Working hard.
You're
And
working hard.
electrical is, it's a really cool career. I've always been really fascinated by it because it is very intricate, and there's a lot of details that go into electrical. It can be
Yeah.
very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I'm a very creative person too. So I think there are ways of bringing that in too, like with all the like the conduit runs and doing your panels, like you can make it look nice. So I can kind of bring that side of me into, I think.
Yeah, there are some pretty panels out there.
Yeah.
Just a weird thing to say, but there
I
are.
know. It's like, ooh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. All the wires are like colors, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
um, But back to the pre-apprenticeship program,
Yeah.
if you had to go back and do it again, knowing what you know now,
Mhm.
would you still do the pre-apprenticeship program? Would you recommend it to other people?
I think all depending on a person's situation. I think because I was a little bit older and hadn't been in school for a long time, I'm going to be 38 this year. So it had been a long time since I had sat down and done math and science. And I didn't really do a lot of that in high school. I had in my head, I was going to be a graphic designer. That's what I wanted to do. And so I took more of the arts programs. So I think it definitely helped me now. I think um, maybe being in high school, coming out of it, maybe not. I wouldn't recommend it because you're going to be doing that in school anyways. But if you are not confident in your math and science, or just even being on a job site, I think it was good to have that. So I could come into a job site and know a little bit of the terminology and what's going on.
Yeah, it helps when you're able to look at something and you're doing it, but also realize the theory behind it, and
Yeah.
just that application can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so down to the nitty gritty, because because I think this is something that I was very curious about, and I know a few other people were as well. When
Yeah.
you made your career change financially, how difficult was that for you? Was it something that's doable? Is it something that was very well? I imagine it was hard, no matter what. You're learning a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Um, but how did it play out for you?
So I was able to move back home with my parents, and so a little bit of my financial responsibilities are taken care of. I mean, it is hard. Like I was going from like a management role to basically back down to minimum wage. So I think on a first year salary as a single person, it could be hard. Um, but I think the end goal and what I know, like where I know I'm going to be, it makes this worth it. And it's like every year your paycheck does increase, which is good. Like if you're in a, like when I was in the studio, it's like I have to ask for a raise, and those raises are not as substantial as what I'm going to be getting each year of my apprenticeship. So like each year, um, I'm with the union, so it's like a weekly pay schedule. So each year they say your paycheck is going to increase by $100. So I know that by the time I'm in about third year, I should be able to support myself. So that's like it was hard for sure, but I think having the support system, I was able to do it, and I know by fifth year I'll be good to go.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of nice too that you know exactly what your pay is going to be, throughout your apprenticeships as
Yeah,
well, because the union
yeah,
does have standardized rates, if I'm not
exactly. Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, like
Which
when you're in another career, it's like you never know what it's going to be, and so yeah.
It's pretty nice. What made you choose the union over going non-union?
Um, I Safety was one of the number one things. The resources that the union has, like if I while I'm doing my schooling, if I need tutors, they have those type of resources. Um, and then the brotherhood and sisterhood of it, I think I really enjoy. Um, I think with non-union, it would be maybe hard to find, like being a woman in the trades. I think if you're at a company and there's no other women there, it's harder to find that camaraderie or that sisterhood, or just someone to talk to about what you're going through at work that understands. So I've been able to meet a few girls in my hall. So once COVID is hopefully over and done with, we'll be able to start having like a monthly meeting and just more of a social aspect, which I think is really good and important for sure in the trades.
It is, because sometimes you can go like job site to job site and not even see another woman out there. And
I
it's nice to
know.
have someone who like understands your struggles, because they're going to be a little bit different than the guys. So
Exactly.
it's just
Yeah.
nice to have that, like you said, camaraderie on site.
Yeah.
So I was watching your IGTV, well, your Instagram stories as well, and I saw that you got to work with Shannon right now. How's that
Yeah.
going?
It is awesome. It's real, like, I was supposed to end up at another job site and I wasn't able to go to that one. And we had like we talk all the time. Like every day we're chatting just to have like another female to talk to about being on the job site, like you said. Um, and we were just like, I feel like there's a reason why you didn't get that other job. And then I checked the job board and I messaged her in the morning. I'm like, are you at the Bridgewater? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm bidding on this. And I was so close to the top. So I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna get it. Like it was really, really good. So as soon as I got my call, I called her, and like when I talked to the guy at dispatch, he's like, wow, you're super excited to get to work. I'm like, this is gonna be so much fun. It's great. So we don't work directly together. We're on two different teams, but I'm able to see her at break time and lunch. And we did work together a little bit today. We had some cleanup and organization. So we did
More
get to
fun
work
stuff.
together. Yeah. Like I'll see her going up the elevator, and
It's always nice to have someone, especially someone you know is fun.
yeah.
So you did mention something there where you said you're bidding on jobs. So in the
Mhm.
union, is that kind of how it works? You're bidding on each job that comes up for work, or
Yeah,
what's the
so
process?
so basically when I did my intake, once I got accepted, then you go on a list to start your like to get dispatched out for your first job. So it's all like everyone gets a number. I think when we did the intake, it was based on our scores from our aptitude and interview, and that determined where we were placed on the list. So I was on the list for about a year before I actually went out on the job site. So I started my apprenticeship January 2020. And so when I finished this job, so I got my layoff at the end of the job, and then you go back on a list. So then every day we check, there's a job board and you can bid on those jobs. So you don't have to bid on it. You can wait if you don't see a job that you're really interested in, if you want to try and find one that's a bit long term. But basically I think it's determined based on how many hours you previously worked, where you would fall on that list. So because I was there for almost a year, I think I was a bit lower on the list. Um, but it was, so I think I was off for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And through
Yeah.
that time, just go explain that as well. You do go through like the EI process there.
Yes. Yep.
So
Yep.
you're
So
getting something during your layoff as well.
exactly. Yeah. And then my son was home anyways for homeschooling. So it was kind of a good time. And Christmas, it was like I had Christmas off. But then I got to, it's like you're on the list. Like I was off work for a month. I'm like, okay, this is good. I can do some stuff. I can organize. But then I was really like, I'm ready to go back to the tools. And
Yeah,
because then it like my apprenticeship is based on hours. So I wasn't getting like the pay was not even my concern. It was more my hours that I was losing and not
that's
wanting to
true.
take. Yeah,
It just adds time to your apprenticeship length too, the longer you're off. And
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
So hopefully I can stay on for a decent amount of time now.
you've got this.
I've got it.
So one last question that I want to ask before we wrap things up is, what would your advice be to a woman who's looking to change careers? And would you recommend your industry to her?
I love what I'm doing. I have not been happier. I mean, I wasn't unhappy in my other jobs, but I've never felt, I think, the confidence that I have now in like when I can accomplish something and when I'm struggling and then I can finally get it. And I think that feeling is so amazing. Um, it's something different though, being on a job like a construction site. There's something like everyone's working super hard, but there's just that like I can't even explain it. Like there was one day I was working outside. I think it was winter time, but like it was one of those winter sunny days, and I had to build this box for like just to cover the wires we had outside running from the building. And I'm like, I was sitting there hammering and I'm like in the sun, I'm like, this is what I'm getting paid to do. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm like the physical part of it too, and like just staying fit and seeing myself grow, like those little wins are just so amazing. So I would definitely, like, if anyone is thinking about it, just to reach out to anyone. Like, there's so many resources on Instagram, and so many women that are very open to talking about their jobs. And I think just doing that research, if you are kind of thinking about it, and I think you'll get very inspired to get into it like me. And that was how I kind of came about to that. So
Amazing. And like you said about research too, I know you mentioned the grant that you took, which is sort of the changing
it was called Second Career.
second career. And
Yeah.
I know there are also a lot of different grants in Ontario, at least when you're looking at getting into electrical apprenticeship, carpentry, plumbing, like
Yeah.
gas fit or anything like that. There's a lot of resources available. So do make sure that you're looking into those.
Yeah. And I think there's
Before
like, sorry, like there's a lot of programs too, I think, for women in construction to do, like the pre-apprentice that I was at, they also had a women's program where they actually did carpentry, plumbing, and electrical. So you had a little bit of each trade, so you could kind of see which one you were interested in. Because I feel like I was like, oh, I want to do carpentry, but then I started in electrical and it was just the fit.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That would be an awesome program just to go even try out
Yeah.
and put it out. So awesome. Before we wrap up, Darcy, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think just with my journey, I think I had a point where I wanted to give up, and I think just having that drive and pushing through and don't give up. It is kind of a hard industry to get into, but it's worth it to put in that time. If so, don't get discouraged and just keep pushing.
Exactly. You always have your bad days, but the wins on the construction site are exciting because not only are you winning, but everybody else is kind of excited that you're excelling as well, which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really love.
yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. So thank you again for coming on my podcast. I can't wait to get this up, and I'm going to link all your information below. So if anybody's interested in checking out Darcy, just check out the link below.